This is an open Q&A call where we can talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. We're certainly going to cover crypto and the markets. And towards the end, if you guys have anything business related that you'd like me to jump into, review your websites, capture pages, funnels, business model, any of that is open game and fair game as well. And I'm going to go ahead and just get one of the websites pulled up real fast that I know I'm going to want to dive into today. And we'll get rocking. If you have a question, well, before that, as always, nothing on here is financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is just for entertainment and educational purposes only. So keep that in mind. And if you guys have any questions, jump on camera. Use the raise your hand feature down in the Reacts tab down below, and that would be awesome. So I can go through y'all's questions. All right, we got a bunch more folks still coming in, and we'll get rocking. All right. So let's take a quick look at the normal charts, and then I've some slides that I want to share with you guys today of uh, charts that I've been accumulating over the past couple of weeks that I think are really interesting. And so we'll kick things off here, as always, with Bitcoin. We're on the daily chart, and what's really critical is that we're coming up to a major decision point that could happen anywhere between now and the end of this month, which is 4 days from now, basically 3.5, 4 days from now. So we've got Bitcoin right here. We've got this line of resistance that it keeps kind of bumping up to. And then we've got this line of support that it's been riding up, and they are coming down and meeting together at this culmination point right here. And so you can see we're at $86,984. And we're on the daily chart. And so at some point, 1, 2, 3, 4, at most, it could happen today, tomorrow, the next 3 or 4 days, it's going to squeeze around in here until it gets squeezed out. And it's either going to pop up and we're going to go, in my opinion, at minimum up to retest 91K, which is this previous support and resistance line right here, or it's going to pop down and we're probably going to head down to this major support line down here. And let me see if I can get that a little bit more. Sorry, just a little bit more accurate right there. Let me get these folks in. Oh, shit. Okay. So, or we're going to pop down and we're going to come down and retest this second major support line for this bull market, which would put us somewhere around $80,000, 79 to 80,000 bucks, depending upon if it plays out or if it just kind of waterfalls straight down to 80, 81K. So, you know, we're at 87 now, minimum going up to 91, or most likely coming down to 81 or in the next 72-ish hours, etc. So big inflection point coming. Again, I'm still just all in Bitcoin right now. I don't have any altcoin positions at the moment because this volatility is playing out and I don't want to experience that to the downside. So we'll see what happens. I might, if this breaks below, if I were going to set a sell order, I might set it around 85K, which means it would break through that line if it hits 85K. If I wanted to just kind of get out of the market, and that would bring it down to 80K, and I would expect it to hold support here unless something just really breaks. I'd expect it to hold support, and then who knows? It could break down through here, and this would be the last line of support for the bull run, which would be around 68, 67K. If we were to kind of zoom out and just take a long-term look at this first trend line and then this second trend line here. So we're either going to hold this second one or we could come back down to the third one and meander up, but I have no idea what's going to happen. If we look at the longer term time frames on the weekly, so we're still in this downward trend on the MACD, which, as we've been looking since it happened, is a pretty big deal. If we were to come down here on the RSI, and put a trend line right there. We're still underneath it on the weekly time frame. So if we were to see this break up above this trend line, that would be a really good sign that we're breaking towards the upside. And that could happen if we break out of this wedge, towards the upside here in the next 3 to 4 days. So yeah, I have no idea what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen. As we're going to see here in a little bit, we'll take a look at some charts. It's a really interesting time to be investing in any of these markets right now, let alone Bitcoin. But that's what's going on in Bitcoin. If we zoom out here and we look at Bitcoin dominance, so again, this is determining Bitcoin season and alt season. We've just been bouncing around in this channel right here and along this upward trend line right here that's support and resistance. And we've been hanging around in that 61.6, 61.7% dominance range here for weeks now, like 2 months, just bouncing up in and around here. And so for me, we're still in Bitcoin season until we come down and break below 60% and start to kind of waterfall down. But right now, Bitcoin dominance has been doing absolutely nothing. It's basically been going sideways for over a month, just hanging around here. So nothing really to see here. Nothing on the MACD that is noteworthy in my opinion, or the RSI. It's all just kind of going sideways. So that is the Bitcoin dominance chart. This is others. So this is all the altcoins outside of the top 10. This is the daily time frame. This has been actually holding up pretty decent. So we came back, tested this long-term trend line, bounced off of that. We've now reclaimed this long-term support and resistance line right here, and we're sitting on top of that as support, which is really great. So the altcoin market has been holding up pretty well, which is why dominance hasn't really gone anywhere. It's been holding up along with Bitcoin. And we're just kind of chilling right here, waiting to see what's going to happen. And so, altcoins have been showing some decent strength. Let's see here. If we were to just kind of measure from that massive sell-off up, up the altcoin market. Well, if we come back to where it currently is right now, up 21, 22% since the absolute bottom. The big question is are we going to hold this, or is Bitcoin going to sell off and are we going to spill back down, right? Or are we going to hold it and start moving back up? That's the question for all of this. On the weekly time frame and the MACD, we're still heading downward, but we're starting to slow that downward momentum. That downward momentum is starting to slow with these bars turning to pink. So we could still have a ways yet to go, but the downward momentum is just starting to slow, which is why we're starting to see a little bit of strength here in the price action. If we look at the RSI trend on here, we have broken through this trend line on the weekly time frame for alts, which is awesome. And it's, showing us here in this strength. So we just kind of have to see if this is going to continue or not. And we're on a fence post right now. We can go one way or the other. And that Bitcoin chart that we looked at earlier is really going to determine what happens. And we're going to know what's going to happen here in the next 2 to 4 days. So you're not going to have to wait long, but it's going to happen here soon. All right. This is Tesla. I just thought I'd bring this up to take a look at this because I know some people were asking about it. I bought some Tesla last week, just kind of averaging into my position as I have been. We're still in a downward trend on the weekly time frame. So from the absolute top at I think 488, we've seen a 55% correction. We're now sitting at a 42% correction. As I mentioned in the past, if I can get one of my favorite world-class assets on sale for 40 or 50% discount or more, that to me is always a great discount. If you could buy your dream car or watch or whatever, your dream asset at a 50% off discount, and it's still the same quality asset, that's a huge deal. So I took advantage of that sale last week and bought some more shares. Let's see here. RSI in the weekly starting to turn up. Downward momentum starting to reduce. And I think a lot of this has to do with the fact that the Cybercab network is supposed to be turned on for the first time in Austin in June. And that's going to be massive. And so, assuming that test goes well and they start to expand the service outside of Austin and Cybercab becomes real for Teslas all over the world, that will instantly turn Tesla into one of the most, if not the most valuable company in the world. They're going to put Uber out of business and Lyft out of business and all of these other rideshare companies that are they're just going to go away, and that's not going to happen overnight. It'll happen over the course of 1 to 2 years, but it will happen. And that pilot program starts in a couple of months here in Austin. I expect it's going to go well, as good as Waymo currently is going, and there's a bunch of Waymos always running around in Austin, but they're just not comparable. If I owned any part of Waymo, if I worked there, I would be looking for a new gig because they're not going to be able to compete with Tesla's Cybercab just from a cost or rate production where every single Tesla, in the world basically can be turned into a cyber taxi overnight with a software update, and Waymo's can't. They have to, you know, build these $100,000 cars full of cameras and sensors, and then pre-map all of their areas. They can't navigate on their own in a true AI fashion like a Tesla Cybercab can. So that's piece number one. Piece number two with Tesla is they're expected to make their first 5,000 Optimus bots this year and have them working in the Tesla factories between 5 and 10,000 units. So conservatively 5,000 units. Next year, 10 to 50,000 units. And this is what changes the world. When Tesla starts manufacturing Optimus bots in a big way, the world just changes. It'll be as big of a change as the invention of electricity or the internet. And that's happening, right? So the first 5 to 10,000 units are going to come off the assembly line this year. And so for me, we're about to have autonomous transportation around the world turned on. That switch is going to be turned on here in June. And then we're about to have autonomous robots running around, and they're all coming out of the same company. Uh, you know, Obviously the general stock market will have some say in this, but whatever this may be, this thing is going much, much higher. I think the general estimate from ARK Invest right now is around $2,300 to $2,600 a share in the next 7, 8 years. And we're currently at 278. So over the long run, I'm still trying to accumulate as much Tesla as I can. And I think this is going to look like a bargain years from now. So I like that. If somebody wanted to be super conservative, they could wait until the MACD comes down and bottoms and has a bullish cross. And that could be a phenomenal time to buy the bottom. Basically, it won't be the exact bottom, but it'll be pretty darn close to it, like this cross was right here. Would have had you buying right around this point, which is awesome. Same for this one right here after this downward trend line. So we haven't crossed yet. We've still got a ways to go in the MACD. That trend is starting to slow. But if this, change or update in June goes well, this could reverse fairly quickly. All right. This I thought was really interesting. This is NVIDIA. So the blue line is a simple moving 50-day average. So if you want to go to indicators, just go to indicators and type in SMA 50. And we're on the logarithmic chart. So this is the price average on the close for 50 day, the 50-day moving average. And what's interesting is on NVIDIA specifically is whenever it breaks down below this moving average, some big stuff tends to happen. And real quick, guys, one sec. Okay. So here's what happens when we move below that. From this one right here, well, let's do this one. It's the first one. You've got a 84% sell-off. From this one, you've got a 80% sell-off. From this one, 45% sell-off. this cross, 40, 50% sell off. And we just broke through that again here. So does it happen every time? No. I mean, we kind of we dipped through it down here. We touched it down here, came down and broke through it down here. So that's 28% sell off with that one. So this to me is a bad sign. I don't own any NVIDIA, but if I did, I might be tempted to lighten my load, maybe sell 30%, and just, you know, take out some insurance basically. Because in the past, this pattern is no bueno for NVIDIA right now. So that's just something to consider. Again, this is on the weekly time frame. Again, I'd probably wait until the MACD bottomed and had a bullish cross to start buying again, or if the RSI came down and touched the oversold mark, right down here on the 30 line, then that's when I'd start picking up some positions again. But if you own NVIDIA, might want to keep an eye on that. I think that's worth watching. We've got the S&P 500, and this is on the daily chart. So this is the EMA 50 and 200. So the 50 in green, the 200 daily moving average moving average here in red. Holding it currently, kind of holding that as support on the week. Excuse me, I'll let more people in here on the weekly time frame. Holding it currently as support as well. If we were to kind of break below this moving average on the weekly time frame, in the past, it's not guaranteed, but we tend to come back down and visit the 200 moving average, which would be from where it's currently at to probably where it would end up for another 14, 15%. So again, just something to kind of keep an eye on right here. For me, the whole thing that I'm watching is Bitcoin and whether or not we're going to have this breakout right here in the next 3 to 4 days. What's going to happen here? We're going to go up, we're going to go down. So that's that. And then the charts that I want to show you guys, let's see here. Let me reshare my screen. All right, so these are all in some slides. But this has been really interesting. About every couple of decades, there's a commodity super cycle where commodities go up for about a decade, and stocks basically go down or sideways. And it looks like that could be starting right now. It has already begun, but it's kind of starting to gain steam. So these are technology stocks versus gold. And as you can see here, technology stocks in black have been trending up against gold. And now it's just broken this multi-year trend line that started in 2011. So 14-year long trend line, it's just broken down through that. And so going down would mean stocks are going down in value versus gold. Okay, right here, stocks are going up in value versus gold. This trend line is basically saying, hey, stocks are getting ready and have already started to go down in value against gold. And this could be another significantly long trend line. So the last time this happened was roughly the year 2000 to 2011, 2012. So again, that 10-year commodity super cycle against stocks. This is Microsoft specifically. So bull market against gold, bear market against gold, bull market against gold, breaking down through this trend line, bear market against gold. So this means basically gold is going up more than Microsoft. Okay. Gold could just stay still and Microsoft could go down in price and we'd see the same chart form. Or Microsoft could go down in price, gold could go up in price, and we'd see the same chart form. It just basically means gold is going to be outperforming tech stocks if this cycle were to repeat. Is that going to happen? I don't know. This is a pretty strong, big cycle that's been playing out for decades. Something I'm definitely paying attention to. This is gold versus the SPX bi-monthly MACD indicator. And this is basically just showing that whenever the MACD crosses up above the 0 mark right here, there's a capital rotation basically where stocks again go nowhere or go down versus gold. And we've seen the times where this has happened in the past, one, two, three, four, and now it's about to happen here for the fifth time. So to me, these are all charts that are supporting the idea that we're going to have a stock market recession, market crash, whatever it may be, or market things like 2008, stocks are going to go down, gold's going to go up. That's what all of these charts are pointing towards. Right here, you've got the NASDAQ on the monthly time frame. You've got the RSI and the stochastic RSI. And basically, wherever you see these vertical lines right here, where the RSI has crossed down below the 70 mark, it's led to a big, giant market sell-off. And it's just crossed down below the 70 mark. And we're starting to see that big sell-off. So if you were to come down here and we were to hold this trend line, I can't measure this tool because it's a screenshot, but 14,000 to roughly 18,000, whatever that is, a 20% sell-off, 15% sell-off. If we were to hold that, right? NASDAQ leveraged ETF versus gold, 16-year support line. It's just breaking down. So NASDAQ tech stocks, big 16-year trend line. It's now breaking down against gold. So more evidence to show that, yeah, this is going to turn into likely a commodity super cycle versus stocks. Now, the giant question for me is how is Bitcoin going to be viewed moving forward now? Has what the United States has done from a policy standpoint over the past few months, is that now moving Bitcoin into the category as a store of value like digital gold? Because traditionally, so far, even though that's been its conceptual use case, it's acted and been treated like a risk asset, like a tech stock. So is that now changing now that the world has woken up? Institutions are buying, banks are buying, countries are buying, wealth funds are buying. Everybody's figured out that Bitcoin is the scarcest asset in the history of humanity, scarcest asset in the universe. Is that now going to change its status and make it behave like gold? And if it does, well, then I'd expect it to do what gold's going to do, only more in a more exaggerated way because there's less of it and a much smaller market cap. If it's not, then it could act like a tech stock and have a major sell-off, just like tech stocks would, if this cycle were to continue to play out, which I think to me makes sense that it would, since we've been expecting this for 2 years now. This interesting chart, just a fractal, doesn't necessarily mean anything, but could. Crash of 1929, currently 2025. I'd expect to see a bounce up here, probably to the probably 768 Fibonacci level, and then bounce off of that and crash, or we break through it and we go up to new all-time highs. Let's see here. Real GDP versus gold. So now let's look at some bullish stuff from a Bitcoin perspective, right? So this is the parabolic curve, basically the textbook formation of a parabolic curve with base 1, base 2, base 3, base 4 blow off top. And this has been Bitcoin right here going up its parabolic curve. We've got base 1, base 2, base 3, base 4, right? Parabolic blow off top. And so far it's been holding this line and it's been making higher lows. Like Bitcoin is still in a bull market. I'm still expecting it, hopefully, for it to go up and hit this final wave 5 with stocks, with Bitcoin, and we have this big blow off top and everything. And then the crash, I'd put that at 60-40 right now as kind of the probability for that to play out. And a lot of the hopium around this is based off of this chart. So this is the price of BTC in orange versus the M2 global money supply in yellow. And Bitcoin, as you can see here, has basically been following the M2 money supply with a high level of correlation. And right here, it would suggest that around the end of April, because this is the money supply already, money supply came down. Now it's been going up substantially for months. Bitcoin trails it by about 107 days, which means if this continues to follow, we would see Bitcoin take off around the end of April and go off and hit new all-time highs. So bullish chart in that regard. This is a big if it plays out, but this is what I'd like to see. I'd like to see this happen and we get the big blow off top in stocks and tech and everything. and then it all kind of comes crashing down. Gold goes up. We'll see what happens with Bitcoin if it turns into digital gold or not. More hopium, just kind of a past fractal, right here. We have not had our blow off top in crypto for this cycle. It would be the first time we haven't had it in any of these cycles if we don't get it. But some hopium right here, and then some more hopium right here. Same fractal from 2020. We come up, break the previous all-time high, make a new one, come back down, retest that as support, blow off to the top, broke through previous all-time high, come up, set a new one, retest this as support, and then go off into a new all-time high. So lots of really interesting competing pieces of data, right? Which one's going to play out? I don't really think there's any way to tell. You could clearly make arguments for both cases right here. My best guess is that we get a final wave 5 blow off top and everything over the next couple of months, and then that's it. At the end of the day, the assets that I'm investing in, specifically Bitcoin and Tesla, still have some gold, are all assets that I want to own for the next 10, 20 years. I want to own more Bitcoin. I want to own more Tesla. All I'm trying to do right now is just protect the money I have in those assets from a major cycle move that could turn into a 1929 style crash, or it could go off into a bull market. Normally, I'm not trying to pay attention to assets like this on a daily basis at all. It's just that we're sitting on the fence, and the consequences, one way or the other, are substantial, and I want to try to avoid those. At least with the money I have in crypto, because it's so volatile. So let me let these people into the room. Okay. And now let's go ahead and open it up for questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and use the raise your hand feature. If you guys want me to go through a specific chart, we can look at specific assets. If you have any thoughts or feedback, I'd love to hear that as well. All right, Mike, go ahead, my friend.
Yeah, I was just wondering if you're paying attention to what any of the big players are doing in the stock market. I know Warren Buffett was sitting on the side for a while. Is he still on the side, or is he making big moves? And then I was also wondering if you consider anything of what China's doing right now. There's some sword rattling there. I know I occasionally watch Monkey Works. I don't know if you follow him at all, but
Yeah.
he's mentioned he suspects something might pop off in the next couple weeks. So, do you consider any of those things?
I mean, I do, take into consideration that Buffett is sitting on his biggest cash pile ever. It's around 30 to 35% of their portfolios in cash right now. So I do take that into account, but I've learned that when it comes to other what if news stories like the China stuff and all of that, I just can't make investing decisions based on that. Especially because I'm investing for the long term here. I'm not trying to day trade. I'm not trying to make a couple $100, a couple $1,000 a day. And making investment decisions off of news stories for me has never really paid off. It's what's happening with price action. I just look at price. The price will basically tell you what's going on in the news. But at the end of the day, what's happening with price on the big macro, at least minimum, weekly time frame, and that's all I'm going by. And for me, that's that's all I need, right? I know where technology is going over the next 10, 20 years. I know where robotics is going. I know where AI is going. That's all going up. And if we have a stock market crash, awesome. That means I get to buy all of these assets at a massive discount. The whole goal is just to make sure you've got cash to buy those assets when they're at a discount, right? Which is what Buffett's doing. That's why he's in 30% cash right now. He's got his bullet fund set aside so that he can buy that. So for right now, like we put more cash into our carry account, our mega backdoor Roth IRA last week, and I'm just going to let that sit there in cash. And I'm not going to touch it. I'm going to see what happens over the next week with Bitcoin. If it's going to say, hey, we're kind of heading off to retest previous highs or not. But yeah, I'm not really paying attention to news stories. I'm just looking at the long-term trends in the charts. So
Okay, thanks.
yeah, great question. No, Susan, I haven't owned TSLY in years. That has not been listed in my portfolio in years. All right. Cool. All right. Anybody else today? Thoughts or questions about the market? We can look at some specific altcoins if you'd like as well. Happy to do that. If anybody has anything that you'd like to take a deep dive on, we can look at, I know XRP is always a big one. But yeah, right now everything's kind of just moving slow and it's in an indecision point. So let me share my screen. Yeah, we can take a look at gold and silver too. So XRP bearish cross last month on the weekly MACD, which is again no bueno. That's usually a big deal. Previously overbought on the RSI, starting to trend down, but for the most part, it's just been kind of heading sideways, right? If we were to put a trend line here and one there, it's starting to form a wedge as well that it'll probably bounce around in and out of until it reaches an inflection point and then boom, off to new all-time highs, or that's kind of it and over. This would suggest right now that chances are it's going down. But again, this momentum could change with a big change in the market. It could cross back up for that final blow off top. But right now, this would tell me that the best time to get out of XRP was a few weeks ago, and just wait to see what this happens and wait for a bullish cross. Yeah. So let's look at gold. You guys wanted to bring that up. And by the way, if you wanted to put crypto cash in gold, you can do that. I believe it's PAX. No, that's not it. Let me bring up CoinMarketCap. I think it's PAXG. Somebody can put it in the chat. I know a few of you guys use it yourselves. PAXG. Oh, maybe not. But there's a crypto that's backed by gold. And so if you're like, I want to get into gold and I don't want to like cash out my crypto and do all that stuff. Yeah, so PAX, same price as gold, $3,054. Current market cap 661 million, $62 million in volume, currently traded on Binance. And not a lot of US exchanges. I thought, yeah, I was gonna say Kraken has it, but it's super low, fairly low volume. So you can buy PAXG on Kraken, but it's only $419,000 in volume. So that's really low. It doesn't have a lot of liquidity. So if you're only going to put a couple $100 or a couple $1,000 into it, that's fine. But if you're thinking about putting 5 figures into PAXG, I wouldn't do it on these smaller exchanges. I would find an exchange with more volume. But that's just something you can keep in the back of your head, right? If something crazy happens and there's a flight to safety or whatever, you can check out PAX there as well. And then let's look at the actual gold chart. Giant cup and handle. And yeah, it's just still ripping on the weekly, still going up on the MACD. It's overbought on the RSI, but that can continue for a while. It could go up as well over the next, 4, 5, 6 years. It would not surprise me at all to see gold hit 10 to 12K. If we're going into this commodity super cycle, would not surprise me at all to see that. So you can kind of see here, in the past. Let's just, this one topped here. I've never looked at this before, but this is gold on a 12-month 12-month time span. So each candle is a year. So basically from here to the top, 12 bars to 12 year bull market. And then this bar right here, 9, 10 bars. So about a 10-year bull market right there. And the question is, when do we start this one, right? Is it at the bottom to where we're currently at? If so, 9 bars. But I would suggest that this bull market is probably starting right here. Like this is sideways action, and then this would be in year 3 of it right now. Yeah, so it could go quite a bit higher. Again, this would only be to right here would be $12,000, 10,000, 12,000 bucks. Wouldn't surprise me at all to do that again. Yep, so that's gold, and I think silver will silver will follow. And this is all just total speculation on my part. But it looks like, yeah, silver, same thing, kind of big giant cup and handle looking like it's about to break out. The big piece for silver here is breaking out through its previous all-time high of 49 bucks. We're currently at 34, so whenever silver hits $50, look out. It's probably going to 100 plus fairly quick. So, yeah. Yeah. Silver's super bullish right now, for sure. Alex, go ahead.
Hey Mike, I wasn't aware of the commodity super cycle chart that you showed earlier, but I have been looking into some of the gold miners, the
Mm-hmm.
entry points into there. And it's interesting that you'd mentioned the super cycle. I'm assuming that would positively affect the miners as well, right?
Should.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like
it certainly should.
I've been looking at Newmont and Barrick, and it looks like they just had bull market crosses on the MACD just fairly recently. So
Yeah, nice. Here, so I actually did some research on this last week, um, on ChatGPT. So it's funny that you bring this up, but I think this will be fun to take a look at. So let me get my screen shared again. Okay. All right. So the question that I asked, because I was wondering the same thing, which gold mining stocks or ETFs performed the best from 2007 to 2012? So kind of when we saw the last big market crash and gold and silver bull run, right? So just price appreciation, not including dividends, large and mid caps, please. So I didn't do any like super small miners. Please include gold as a comparison. So best performing gold mining stocks and ETFs 2007 to 2012. Uh, in terms of price gain, so Rand Gold 320, Eldorado 350, 200, Royal Gold 130, VanEck 30%. Now, gold price versus gold stock performance, because then I'm like, well, how much did gold go up, right? If the miners went up, some of the miners went up to 320, 350%, how much did gold actually go up? And was it worth the risk and the volatility to go into the miners instead? So gold bullion nearly tripled from 2007 to 2012, whereas a broad gold miner ETF had a far smaller net gain. And so this was the screenshot that it gave me. Gold price in yellow, Rand Gold Resources in orange, and then Gold Miner ETF GDX did worse than just holding gold. Rand Gold was the winner, but to me, that's luck. Like, how in the world would you know which one's going to do the best, right? I just don't think that's possible. So let's see if it gives me a summary. In summary, gold's huge bull run from 2070 was driven by macroeconomic stress, inflationary policy, and surging demand in the metal. The best performing gold miners rode this wave by executing well on growth and keeping costs in check, thus amplifying the benefit of higher gold prices. However, the average gold mining stock lagged far behind the metal's performance, highlighting that in this period, selectivity was key. Investors who concentrated in a few quality gold miners or royalty companies saw outstanding gains, while broad index investors saw relatively modest returns and considerable volatility. Gold itself proved to be one of the strongest assets during that era, validating its role as a crisis hedge. So that to me kind of ended my interest in mining stocks. It's trying to like pick the lotto out of the altcoin market as far as miners go, and I don't pay any attention to gold miners, so I'm just like I'm not even going to play that game. If I want exposure to gold and silver, I'm just going to buy the metals. And specifically for me, if I were going to do it from a stock basis, I'd be buying Fizz, which is PHYS. So this is the Sprott Physical Gold Trust. So unlike GLD, they're backed one for one. Like the Sprott Physical Gold actually owns all physical gold, just like the spot Bitcoin ETFs actually own the Bitcoin, where GLD does not. It's just paper receipts. And so if the gold market were to ever like structurally break down and something crazy were to happen, uh, and it all comes down to like who owns the physical stuff, then I think Fizz is what I want my money in from a stock perspective. And then they have one for silver as well. So that's just kind of a distinction I'd consider for folks is if you want exposure to gold through stocks, I would I would personally buy Fizz instead of GLD. Does that answer your question, Alex?
Yep, 100%. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Gustavo, go ahead.
Hi, Mike. I just have a question regarding the prepping. Are you still set up for that event? And if you see happening a Black Swan event still this year,
For
what are
what?
your thoughts on a Black Swan event this year that you mentioned before? Do you still see it happening, or what are your thoughts on
I
that?
mean, I thought it was much more likely to happen before Trump got elected, right? I thought if
Mm-hmm.
it's going to happen, it's going to be something that disrupts the election, some way, somehow. So now that Trump's in office, I'm not as super concerned about it. And you know, anything is possible. Anything could happen right now. There's a lot of people in power who are at real risk of going to prison soon, that would prefer not to do that. And so I think desperate people do desperate things. The one downside to owning Tesla stock that I keep in mind is the fact that that entire company is based on Elon. If Elon dies, kind of like Steve Jobs, but they're much less established than Apple, Tesla stock is going to tank. So I've kind of always got that in the back of my head. It's kind of a high risk, high reward scenario because it's all dependent upon Elon. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's possible, but I'm more concerned right now, frankly, about the macroeconomic trend changes than a black swan event at this point. So,
So, do you still have your supplies in order, your
oh yeah,
guns and all that stuff?
yep. I'm
Yep.
sitting here working on them this morning. So,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
thousand percent for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Got you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Great question. Thanks. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just going to check the chat real quick. Manny, as I put in my update over the last 1 to 2 weeks ago, you guys got to watch the updates that I send out, specifically the video ones, if you want to know what I'm doing, because that's where I'm talking about it. Yeah, I moved to all Bitcoin probably 2 weeks ago, I think it was, out of alts and just in Bitcoin until dominance changes, until I see dominance actually start to fall. If I'm going to be in crypto, I'm just going to be in Bitcoin until I see that happen. What if I thoughts on Hedera for the next 10 years? I'll be shocked if Hedera is still around in 10 years. Might be, but it's going to be super volatile for sure. It's not going to just, it's going to act like any other altcoin. Where do I buy my gold? I buy it from this company. I'll bring up my screen here. They're not super fancy, but they're here in Austin, and we interviewed Dana, the founder, a couple of years ago. So it's Amergold. They're one of the oldest and most highest rated, gold exchanges out there, and they're here in Austin, so I can literally go buy and pick up the metals, buy or sell in person, which is nice. And they don't try to sell you bullshit numismatics. That's kind of the risk when you're buying from gold dealers. If you get on the phone with a gold dealer and they want to start selling you numismatic collectibles, just hang up the phone and don't talk to them. And so the call here with Dana was really educational around that, and that's just, this is who I buy from. Good prices, good service, small company. Yeah, just been a good experience all around. All right, thoughts on gold ETF or crypto ETF to get some exposure? Exposure to what, Lincoln? Because those are exposure to gold or exposure to crypto. I think ETFs are fine. I just kind of mentioned the gold ETF that I would get into, which is Fizz. And then the crypto ETF, if you want the most liquidity, it's IBIT, but it's one of the Bitcoin ETFs, spot ETFs. I am not familiar with Spearmint Resources at all, Monica. Alice, what are you referring to as far as what time periods?
When you were sharing about your gold research from chat, Mike, the
Oh, okay.
07, 12 or something. I'm just trying to understand your like wisdom and logic.
Yeah, no problem. So the reason I was looking at that is that time period is because that's when we had our last big market crash, right? In 2007, 2008. So I wanted to know, how did gold react the last time we had a big stock market crash? And so we got to come all the way back down here. So 2007 was right here. Yeah, so 2007 started right here, big bull run in gold, and then we had the market crash in 08. So gold did crash, and that's important for everybody to know. During the crash of 08, it crashed 33%, but then it had another big, massive bull run, right? So that's why I was looking at that time period, is because I wanted to know what it actually did during those years, and owning the metal versus owning the mining stocks. But you can see here, for the most part, gold was in its macro commodity super cycle. Let me go to the 12-month. It's hard to do math in my head. Come on, where'd you go? Oh, I'm on Fizz, that's why. Why does this keep disappearing on me? This is so weird. Never had this happen before. Huh. Well, I don't know what's happening. Let's try it on the weekly. See if we can do it there. So let's just say right here, when it crossed up above the moving average, right around here to the top, that was 53 bars. So this is on the weekly time frame. So 535 divided by 52, whatever that is, 10 years, basically. So 10-year commodity super cycle, sideways, and then likely another 10 years. The question is when did it start? If we were to come above the moving average, was it right here? Was it right here? Was it right here? Not sure yet, but I think it makes sense that it probably started around 2021 after COVID, right? And this could go up for another 5 years. So wouldn't surprise me at all if that's the case. It's just really interesting too, when you're going to have the biggest explosions ever in specific tech stocks when it comes to AI and robotics. So it's like, what's going to happen in that regard? I have no idea if like specific stocks like Tesla are just going to do their own thing and forget about, the moving averages like the NASDAQ in general, and just be kind of their own outliers or not. I just don't know. But to me, it makes sense to have some of this in my portfolio, all of this, right? So owning Tesla, owning Bitcoin, owning gold. That's kind of how I'm going about it. Yeah. Mining stocks suck. Yeah, unless you know what you're doing, it's like investing in altcoins for sure. Why don't I think HBAR will last? Uh, because 10 years in the span of crypto is like 100 years, right? Like the world is going to look dramatically different in 10 years. Um, so yeah, I think I think it's safe to say that the only crypto I know will be around 10 years from now will be Bitcoin. All the rest, I have no idea because the innovation is going to happen so fast and so many changes are going to be made. HBAR is cool to hold during the crypto cycles and invest in, but there's no way I'm holding it in any way after a bull market is over through a bear market. It's just not. That's not with any crypto outside of Bitcoin. I'm not doing that. Um, yeah, right now Hedera is all like every other crypto asset. It's all hopes and dreams and stories and sales pitches. If it gets integrated somehow into our infrastructure, cool, and some kind of like real and lasting way where it becomes indispensable and our infrastructure is somehow built on it, then awesome. It'll still be super volatile in the meantime, and I just don't necessarily see that happening. It might, um, but yeah, I'm not betting on it. It's been in the portfolio. Like I added it in the portfolio right down here at 4 or 5 cents, I believe, and go back and look at it. But I added it to the portfolio for this cycle. But whenever this cycle's over, if it's not already over, I'll be out of it for sure. No such thing as a long-term investment in crypto for me outside of Bitcoin. Let's see here. What is Bitcoin functionality? Bitcoin, its purpose is it's the ultimate store of value that's ever been created in the history of humankind. And I can't get into why, but I'll show you a great book that you can buy that will explain this in super simple terms, or you can go to ChatGPT and ask it to summarize this book for you. It's called The Bitcoin Standard. And that book will really help you understand the core, sales pitch for Bitcoin, if you will. But it's the most superior form of store value and money that's ever existed, and it's the only truly scarce asset in the entire universe. Think about that. Like literally, it's the scarcest asset in the entire universe. It's the only scarce asset in the entire universe. Um, so it's going to make it super valuable as it has already become, and that will just only continue. Let's see here. Monica, I honestly, I won't read it. What's it about? But I get books sent to me all the time, and I don't have time to read them. But I'd love to know what it's about. Um, yeah, especially when I had the podcast, I'd get books show up on my doorstep every week, and I just don't have time for homework assignments. So, um, this is a message from Monica, who has an ebook she wants me to read. But if you tell me a little bit about it, Monica, I'd love to know what the subject matter is. Jason, go ahead.
Hey, Mike. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, what's up, my friend?
What's your take on Trump, the administration, and the strategic reserve, with Bitcoin and all the American-made cryptos and not being taxed on any capital gains if they're American-made? Why do you think Bitcoin is not in there as far as, having any tax exemptions?
Oh, it is. It is. They came out and kind of clarified that, hey, Bitcoin is in its own special category, and we want to support American-made U.S. cryptos as well. And the tax idea is just an idea right now. Like the strategic Bitcoin reserve has been created, right? They're using the assets that are already on hand to fund it. So I think it was around 200,000 Bitcoin that we have on hand, if memory serves me correctly. Now they're trying to figure out how to buy more Bitcoin, and they've talked about selling gold in order to do that. But I think in order to like fund it with new money, they'd have to get that passed by Congress. And then in order to pass any kind of tax, benefits around that, it'd have to be passed by Congress as well. So it's not, these are all ideas of like, hey, this sounds awesome, but ultimately those would have to be passed by Congress, which, as you know, is not it's not a super easy thing to do, and he just can't do it with the stroke of a pen. So I think it's the most bullish crypto has ever been. I just think we're running into headwinds that we've been looking at in this group now and tracking in this group for a year and a half. But the crypto industry has never been more bullish from a foundational perspective, in my opinion. So I think once we get through these headwinds, whenever that happens, then crypto has a massively bright future for sure. And the tax status would obviously, I think there's two potential catalysts that could send Bitcoin into its blow off top. One, if the tax thing passed, absolutely, that'd be massively bullish, and I think it would create a massive frenzy in crypto. The other one is the talk about sending out a tax rebate from all the money that they're saving from the fraud that they're finding, and spending that they're wasteful spending that they're cutting. So a month or two ago, there was talk about a $5,000 check going out to every taxpayer, in the months ahead. Now, previously in the last week, I've heard that's up to 9 or 10,000, just based on the amount of money they're saving. And the whole concept here is, hey, this is your money. It belongs to you. We're just sending it back to you after we've stopped all of these crazy NGOs from wasting it. And so I think that's critical that the Trump admin does that, especially if the market starts to tank, which we've seen a lot of signs that it will at some point, maybe by the end of this year. I don't know when. But if and when that starts to happen and they come out and say, hey, we're going to send all taxpayers a $10,000 rebate check, like that's going to create a massive bull run in crypto for sure, kind of like what we saw in COVID. So if either of those things happen, I think we go off to crazy prices. But that's just hopium at this point. So there's no point in thinking about it, considering or whatever, because it might happen, might not, and so it's just irrelevant at that point. But yeah, those are my thoughts about it.
Cool, thanks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you. All right, Jason, go ahead, and then Ariel, and then Roger. Or Jason, did we just talk? Yeah, there we go. Thank you. Ariel, go ahead.
Hey, Mike. So I had a conversation with my brother. He's a real estate guy, kind of old school in his approach to finance. And and I'm into Bitcoin. He asked me a question that kind of stumped me. He said, basically, what if they're going to create a coin that have the same scarcity quality that Bitcoin has? Would that be a potential competition to Bitcoin? And I thought
No,
that I didn't have any answer to that.
yeah, they've already tried to do that like 3 times, right?
Okay.
So whenever Bitcoin has been forked in the past for like Bcash and all of the other variations, like this happened a lot in 2017, where a couple of shysters forked Bitcoin and wanted to come out with their own version of it and like have bigger block sizes and things like that. And they've all failed. BSV was the other one. Bcash was the second one. And they've all failed, and they all will fail because Bitcoin, Michael Saylor calls it, had the immaculate conception, which is one of the most critical reasons why Bitcoin has been successful. And that's the fact that nobody knows who created it. They can't prove it. And nobody is cashing in on it. It's assumed that Hal Finney was likely the creator of it, and he's dead. But at the end of the day, Bitcoin kind of had this immaculate conception, right? Where you can't go arrest somebody. You can't attack their character. Because if Bitcoin had an inventor that was identified, you can bet that they'd already be in prison and would have been put in prison years ago, and or their character would have been slandered, which would have slandered the reputation of the token, and it would never have gotten the adoption that it's gotten. And so that will never happen again. Like, Bitcoin is here. It's done, frankly, the impossible. And it will literally never happen again the way that it happened with Bitcoin. So they've tried, I mean, every token in the world has tried to replace Bitcoin with different benefits and features and, you know, whatever. And none of them will ever do what Bitcoin has done. It just was kind of a miracle the way that it was invented, came to the market, the qualities it had, the features it had, the timing that it had, everything was just kind of somehow a perfect part of the simulation for it to do what it did, and it just won't happen again. So yeah, that's the answer.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Read that book. Read the Bitcoin Standard. Buy it on Amazon. It'll change your life because you'll finally understand what Bitcoin is, and when you get it, it's like, oh, cool. Now I understand what I'm buying, what I'm investing in, and it's a really empowering piece of knowledge to have. So I'd highly recommend that for everybody.
Thank you.
But yeah, great question. Thank you. All right, Roger, you are up, my friend.
Hey, Mike, I hope you haven't answered this before and I forgot or missed it, but you know, if you were to have some, you know, children or grandchildren, whatever, who are young, and you wanted to just buy some Bitcoin now, understanding that it might be 15, 20 years before they are old enough to even understand what it is or go on, where would you put that? I mean, ledgers and treasures seem to kind of come and go a little bit, firmware updates, all that. Do you just go with a paper wallet and then save off a digital copy of that paper? What would you do?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Coinbase has like long-term storage custody that's like insured and everything like that. And so that's an option. Like BlackRock and, you know, all of these big ETFs and banks, they're storing the majority of their Bitcoin with Coinbase custody because it meets the security requirements that the SEC has for the asset. So as far as I'm concerned, that would be the safest place to put it from a long-term perspective. Your other option would be to put it on a ledger or a Trezor, and just have the backup seed phrase and potentially putting that in a safety deposit box, you know, somewhere. If that gets compromised, though, then there's risk there. So I almost think Coinbase custody is a better option. So if I had to leave Bitcoin to my kids knowing that I was going to die next week, I would do it through Coinbase custody.
Okay, well, I hope I don't die next week, but I do thank you very much for the answer.
Yeah.
Because I really wasn't.
And that's different than just holding it in a Coinbase account. So just do your homework on Coinbase custody. Like, they charge a small fee, but it's like in their most secure vault, if you will, that really can't be stolen. So yeah.
Great, thank you.
But great question. Thank you, Roger. All right, guys. Awesome. All right. Anybody have any business stuff that you'd like to cover here today? Happy to go through that as well. And continue on with crypto and stocks too. Make sure you guys understand what's going on with robotics right now. It's absolutely unbelievable what's going to happen here in the next 24 months when it comes to humanoid robotics. It's totally going to change our world. So watching companies like Tesla and Figure, Figure is not publicly traded yet, but they're kind of the second big player in the United States, and they will be at some point. So keep an eye on what they're doing. Alex, go ahead.
Business question. I'm looking to get into the coaching business. Right now, I have a couple of businesses. I have a SaaS business, and we also have a private label business that we sell on Amazon. And there are a ton of people that are getting slaughtered on Amazon right now, just because of all of the new surcharges and new fees and
Mm,
all the supply chain disruptions and all the fees that come with the supply chain increases since COVID. So
mm,
a lot of people are getting slaughtered on Amazon. And
mm.
we did struggle for a couple of years, but we've kind of restructured everything and kind of figured everything out. Um, and so I've been asked from a number of people to put together kind of like a white paper on everything that we have done to restructure our business and basically how we went from, minus $250,000 on our books to now being profitable. So I've got that book underway, but I guess my question would be, what do I do with it after that? Like, do I give it away? Do I charge for it? Do I give it as like a lead magnet type thing? Or
Uh, I mean, to me, it sounds like what you figured out is super valuable if you have an Amazon business, right?
yeah,
Why would you give it away in a book? Unless,
yeah,
unless you're like retired and you just want to be super generous and help people. But for me, if you figured out a serious, significant problem to a lot of people's businesses that can help turn them around, I think it's important that you get compensated for that value and the time and effort it took you to go through and figure all of that stuff out. So if it were me, I'd throw up a video, like kind of like a 30-minute to 40-minute video going through, hey, here's all the problems people are going through right now. If you've been experiencing this as well, we figured it out. Here's our before, here's our after. I'd be happy to coach you through the process, and I'd sell access to that for 1,000 to 2,000 bucks. I wouldn't give it away for free in a book.
so when you say access, would that be like a set of videos or a set, like what would that entail?
You could do a set of videos and then like, a weekly live Q&A call or coaching call for, you know, 4 to 6 weeks or whatever. You could say, hey, it comes with 6 weeks of live Q&A calls, but you could just keep doing them as long as you're selling, and new people are coming into the program. You could just do them once a week indefinitely until everybody's kind of been helped out and nobody else is coming in. But to me, that would be worth easy 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 bucks. If I've got a business that, I'm losing more than that a month, then it makes a lot of sense to spend that much to get that business back and then some.
Yeah. And how would you promote something like that?
Anywhere you have a following, so Instagram and paid ads, you've got a very targeted audience that's pretty easy to get in front of, I think. Um, and so I think you could do quite well with a fairly low ad spend of like 10, 20 bucks a day on Facebook and Instagram to get in front of, hey, are you an Amazon reseller doing at least $10,000, $20,000 a month in sales? How has your business gone downhill since COVID? Are you having trouble dealing with X, Y, and Z changes and policy updates and whatever? Is it just, draining your business dry? If that's you, we figured it out. I'd love to show you what we've done. Here's before, here's after. I'm going to hold a free training video on it, or I recorded a free training video on it. You can watch it right now, enter your name and email address, and take them through a 20, 30-minute video. Don't tell them, tell them what you did, or basically like you don't even need to go into that. You could just say, here's your problems. I know what you're going through. We went through them as well. We spent a year figuring this out. Here's what we're doing now. Obviously, this is super valuable info. I'm not just going to give this away freely to whatever, but if you have a business that's been negatively impacted by this, I'm confident I can help you turn it around the next 30 to 60 days and do it at a super reasonable price. Feel free to book a call with me here below to talk about your specific situation and just, book a 15, 30-minute call, talk to them. And then you could send them like a Google Doc with the details after the call. And you don't even have to sell it to them over the phone. You could just be like, yeah, I could totally help you. Let me shoot you a Google Doc with the details. And if you get started the next 24 hours, I'll give you a $500 discount. And let's turn your business around over the next 6 to 8 weeks. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer for the folks who are in that pain, right? It's a clear, present pain that they need to get out of. And if you have the solution to that, it's something that's super easy to say yes to. and that doesn't need a lot of selling or arm twisting at all. Yeah, just make it easy for people to make it easy to get the offer in front of people and make it easy for them to say yes.
Right.
If that makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, that does. Thank you.
Cool. All right, Desmond, thank you. You can send that to me via PayPal anytime. Just playing, my friend. But the good, I'm glad that's what these calls are for. All right, Scott, go ahead.
Thanks, Mike. Yeah, we've got a book that we're putting out to the printer in about a week. And just wanted to know if you had any ideas on self-distribution, how important it is to have a reviewer on it, the actual book. And we're considering Amazon and also Ingram Spark, but we wanted to do some self printing first so that we could get signed copies out there more easily and have that option available and also make the money directly. And
Okay.
that's what we're up against.
Do you have an audience already?
Yeah, we have about 150 people that have indicated they want to pre-order. And
Okay.
we have a following of about close to 1 million people, but you know, they're just people. So we don't know how we're
Are they
planning on
following
doing paid
you?
ads.
Are they following you because they're interested in what you do? I don't understand when you say they're just
Yeah.
random people.
This is, I don't know if you don't know if you remember Chris Hatterson with For the Horse.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, we've been on Facebook for quite a number of years. She has a horse business. She has a high ticket item. She has quite a good following, like I say, about 1 million viewers. And there's lots of people that follow her regularly.
Okay.
So she is planning on doing paid Facebook ads as well.
Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, here's the thing to remember when it comes to a book is that a book is not a business. A book is not a product to make money with. A book is a sales page, or a relationship builder, right? So you've got to be super lucky and end up like Robert Kiyosaki or whomever and have this 1 in a million hit where you sell millions of books to make money with books. Books are phenomenal at delivering value to potential customers in order to build rapport, build your relationship, build up goodwill, and then transfer that into something else on the back end. So an example of this would be my buddy Justin Donald, who wrote a book years ago called Lifestyle Investor, and he's sold thousands of copies of that book. The people who buy it are all investors, right? And they're interested in lifestyle investing, passive income investing. But I don't know, he's probably made 5 figures with the book sales, was when all is said and done. But he took that audience. When you buy the book, you can opt in for free bonuses and giveaways. And he turned that audience into a $5 to $6 million a year mastermind group, right? And so for me, I never look at I'm never thinking about making money with a book through book sales. I'm like, how can I use this book as a business card or marketing piece to then turn those people who've become front end customers now into higher level customers? So that's the number one way to think about it from an advertising perspective. You can advertise books if you build a book funnel. So,
Yeah.
you've got to have some upsells in there where you can afford to run paid ads, and it might cost you $50 to acquire a customer who buys a $15 book. So you're in the negative. But if you have those upsells in there, well, then now you can spend $50 to acquire a book customer, and that book customer ends up spending $60. Well, now you're in the positive, and you can continually acquire new book customers every day into perpetuity.
Yeah.
So those are kind of the two most important things I would share with you when it comes to launching a book. Don't expect to make money from the book itself. Have a plan to market and promote it with a funnel so you can paid ads and turn it into an ongoing asset. And then have a way for those book buyers to ascend into something that turns them into a higher value customer.
Yeah, and that's part of the reason we want to do the distribution ourselves, because with Amazon, you don't get contact information as to who bought the book or any information about the buyer. So you needed to get them through our funnels to go to the higher ticket items. You know, but I was just wondering, so as far as reviewers and stuff like that on the book, it's because you're sitting it out in this situation, reviewers aren't necessarily going to give you any bang for that information, because you're using it more as a lost leader or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. And when you say reviewers, you mean people you want to leave a review about the book?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, those are always important, but if you're not going to be selling it on Amazon, not super critical, but ask. So what I would do is in the first page or two of the book, hey, thank you so much for buying this. We wanted to give you a free gift. Go to wxyzwhatever.com to download your free whatever. And then that takes them to a capture page, name, email address, whatever it may be, to get them on your book buyer list.
Yeah.
And then, go from there, ask for reviews, things like that. But that's how you can kind of get around Amazon's policy.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, my buddy Hal Elrod does that really successfully with his book, The Miracle Morning. So I think in The Miracle Morning, he said he's got like 3 or 4 different places throughout the book where he's offering a free bonus, and each one is different. So if the first bonus didn't appeal to you, cool. 2 chapters later, you're going to run into a second one that's different. And then 2 chapters later, a third one that's different. So he's got multiple fishing poles in the book, basically, to make sure something looks good to everybody.
Okay.
Awesome. But yeah, great question, Scott. I hope the launch goes super well. It's exciting. So congrats.
Yeah, it's been a long road, but it's finally coming to fruition. So we're excited too.
Big milestone for sure. So awesome. Well, keep us posted and let us know how it goes.
Okay, thanks for your help, Mike.
You're welcome. Let's see, Monica, we've got a couple minutes left. What's going to come with the robots exactly in the videos? Can you give us some ideas? I talked about this in an email that I sent out a couple of weeks ago. I'll just be very brief with it. But over the next 5 to 10 years, robots, in the next 10 years, Elon's estimating that there's going to be 5 billion robots built around the world, between 5 billion and 10 billion robots. So that's more than the human population coming online in the next 10 years. And if you think about that, that will take over any and all forms of labor, skilled and unskilled. So 10 years from now, you will not want a human surgeon performing surgery on you. You just won't. You won't want a human attorney. You won't want a human CPA. You won't want a human doctor, because AI will know more than any doctor or human alive about that particular subject. And what people don't really understand is that when you have a group of robots working on the same task, they learn exponentially from every other robot's experience. So let's say you have a robot performing appendectomies. Let's say the best human surgeons these days perform on average 3 appendectomies a day. And over the course of a career, they perform 1,000 appendectomies, right? You're rare air as far as, I want to go hire the best surgeon in the world who's got to do that procedure for me, or heart bypass, whatever you want, right? Well, when they have robots performing those surgeries in 10 years, and they have 1,000 of those robots performing that same surgery 5 times a day over the entire globe, right, in all of these different countries and cities. Well, now collectively, if you've got 1,000 robots doing 5 procedures a day, that's 5,000 procedures a day. And that's not individual experience, all of that experience of 5,000 procedures a day, all goes back to train that AI on that procedure, how to do it better. And so if you do something 5,000 times in a single day over and over and over again, you perfect that, and you see anything that can go sideways, any interruption, any unexpected outcome, whatever. And that's how robots are going to scale and grow and learn at an exponential curve. That's how the Tesla Cybercab is going to become the best driver on the planet. It's because it's learning by driving millions of miles a day across hundreds of thousands of cars every single day. So that's what people don't understand that's coming. And then you take world-class ability, you give it a physical body, and you manufacture these things and pump them out for thousands of dollars. And their primary cost is electricity and maybe a little bit of maintenance. And now you have robots that can build anything or do anything that's working for 50 cents an hour instead of, $5 to $20 an hour. And now you've got manufacturing labor where in China it's $3.50 an hour. And now we've got a manufacturing base here in the US that's 50 cents an hour, right? So the good news is it's going to make everything in the world exponentially cheaper because all of the human labor costs are going to be inefficiencies are going to be removed. The bad news is that's going to take up a lot of people's jobs. And there's going to be this gap where a lot of people are not going to be able to adapt. And that's going to end up with 3 different categories of people. The first category is the ownership class. This is where everybody needs to do whatever you can to make sure you're in that class in the next 36 months. The ownership class means you own stock and equity in the companies that are creating this future and that are going to own these robots. So specifically for me, that's Tesla. That's the number one leader out there that is the top of the food chain for me in many different ways. So how can I own and acquire as much Tesla stock as I possibly can over the next 36 months? If you do that, you will gain from all of the leverage that these billions of robots create, right? That's how you put yourself in a position to leverage this disruption and make a profit from it instead of being a victim of it. It's how you turn it into an opportunity. So put yourself in an ownership position by owning equity in these companies. If you do that, and if you do it with a meaningful amount of money, to me, I would expect $100,000 investment would 20x over the next 20 years would be a pretty conservative outcome, if not 40x or 50x, but if we're conservative, 20x. So $100,000 investment would turn into at least 2 million to 4 million to 6 million over the next 20 years is what I'd expect. And that's how you'd take advantage and end up in the ownership class, right? If you put $1 million into it, well, you can do the math. The other class is going to be the adapter class. Those are going to be the entrepreneurs who are at the cutting edge right now and learning how to use these tools. If you are an entrepreneur right now and you're learning how to use AI, congratulations, you're like in the top 1% of people who are learning how to use these things right now. And the adapter class will learn how to use AI to create new opportunities or do what they already do better and more efficiently and at a lower cost. So AI right now is not replacing what I do. It's allowing me to do what I do more efficiently with less time and work so I can put more time and effort into what I do and do it better. It takes all the busy work off of my plate so I can focus on the stuff that actually matters. And then the final group of people will be really the surf class, for lack of a better term. They'll be the people who can adapt. They don't have the mental aptitude to do it. Maybe they're in their 50s or 60s and they have a lifetime of skills that have now been made irrelevant and obsolete. And they don't want to learn how to go use this tech and start a new career. And I don't blame them. But at that point, it's, there's not a lot of options left for you. And so that is the group that will end up on UBI or Universal Basic Income. And you'll get a modest stipend from the government, maybe $2,000 a month, kind of like Social Security, that you'll live off of, and you'll have a comfortable life, but it'll be one without a lot of options, right? You'll get to buy your stuff off Amazon and Walmart and have your Netflix buy shitty food. There just won't be a lot to life. It's not like you're going to be able to go take dream vacations or anything like that. But it'll be comfortable. For the most part, your needs will be met. And I think that'll be paid for by taxing these robots a certain percentage of every hour that they work. There'll be a tax that is administered in order to pay and cover the UBI for this very large group of people. So that's not going to happen overnight, but it will happen over the next 10 years. And the moment you start seeing robots walking around in public, running errands, delivering packages, if you walk into a restaurant and it's taking your order or cooking your food, that's when it's time to, the time to be in the ownership class is over. Now you better really get into the adapter class and make some changes, or you're on the verge of ending up in the serfdom class and kind of on the victim side of all of this. So that's where I see, that's my long answer, Monica, to your question. So I think the next 3 to 5 years is super, super critical to buy assets. Who gives a shit what's happening with short-term price action? When it comes to Tesla, right now it's at a 40% discount off its previous all-time high. If you just look and pay attention to what's happening and where this is going, it's inevitable. And that's why I'm so interested in acquiring that stock, and that and Bitcoin are kind of all I'm really interested in. So will Audience Factory soon be old, or do you adapt Audience Factory along with robots? So will my courses become obsolete? Is what I think you're asking. So no, it won't, because I have personal experience just from my own activities that AI will never have. And I'm always changing right now, right? So when I launched Audience Factory 2 weeks ago and did a whole new section on AI classes, you see me adapting in real time and applying these new technologies to my own business. And as long as I do that, I'm going to be good. Because now I can record a podcast and have AI edit it and create 30 pieces of micro content for Instagram to grow my audience in the span of 60 minutes for $30 a month, instead of having to pay a full-time video editor $5,000 to $7,000 a month, which is what it cost me previously to do that. So I get the same output for 99% less money and 99% less time, and that allows me to grow my business faster than ever before. So if you're using AI to increase your efficiency, you're good, because that's what this is all going to be about. We're going to have this market crash whenever it happens in the next, I don't know, 6 to 12, 18 months. And what's going to happen is it's going to coincide with the launch and the progression of all of these AI models and the launch of these physical robots. And so what you're going to see when we have this 2008 style crash is all these companies are going to lay off people because they don't have a choice if they want to stay in business. But they're not going to hire humans back 3 years later. They're going to just use AI, and they're going to bring on robots. And those jobs are going to be lost forever. And so at that point, you either adapt or your career dies and you end up on UBI. And then that's going to create this whole meta crisis when it comes to meaning, which is incredibly important for humans. We have to have a purpose in life, and we have to pursue meaning, or we end up depressed and taking drugs and alcohol, diving into alcohol, and it's just a really, really ugly place to be. And if you look at COVID as a microcosm of this, or micro experiment around it, I think that's a really good model, where a lot of people lost their jobs, highest unemployment rate ever. They all got stuck at home on limited incomes. And what happened? 10 to 20% used that as a huge opportunity to change their lives for the better. They started online businesses. They became coaches. They became experts at something. They got super healthy. They changed their diet. They started exercising. They did cool stuff with their family. But that was the minority. That was the 10 to 20%. The 80 to 90% bought records amount of alcohol and watched records amounts of Netflix. That's what's going to happen. It's just not going to happen for 18 months. It's going to happen forever after that point. And so that is going to create an opportunity in and of itself, right? To become a coach, to help people find purpose. and find meaning and make that transition. And so that's what I'm trying to do with Audience Factory for entrepreneurs, is bring you guys up to speed on, hey, how do you use these tools, and adapt them into your business, which right now, if you do, you can build a bigger business that's more profitable than ever. Take that money and use it to buy assets and equity into these AI companies. And then in 3 to 5 years, never have to work again. It's kind of the goal. So what changes do I see in real estate investing with the rise of AI? That's a question I've thought about a lot, because I think that model is going to change significantly, because there's going to be a large portion of society who are not going to be able to afford homes anymore. Like what we would see as the typical upper middle class home right now. I think the middle class is going to shrink tremendously. I think it's going to be the ownership class, and then a small adapter class, and then the serfdom class, as the kind of the 70 to 80% of society. And they're not going to be able to afford those homes. So I think, yeah, I think the only way that I'd be in real estate right now is buying RV parks and really low class multifamily units. It's the only real estate I would buy right now, unless it was like a unique, super unique Airbnb vacation style home. Afford Airbnb? Probably not. I mean, if you keep lowering the price, sure, somebody will be able to afford it. Will you be able to offer your Airbnb at a profit still? Probably not, unless it's, again, a super unique property that is like a magnet that brings people in for a unique experience. If it's just a regular house in a neighborhood, I wouldn't want to be in that position for sure. Yeah, all kinds of cool question, guys. This is the shit I think about every day. So I could talk about this stuff all the time. But awesome. All right. Well, that's our time for today. And if you guys want to talk about this stuff more, bring more questions like this next week. I love talking about this, and I'll send out more email updates as well. I've got a photo that I wish I could share with you right now, but it shows all of the humanoid robots that are being constructed around the world at the moment. Most people think there's like 3 or 4. There's not. There's like 40 of these things from China and all kinds of different companies. And they're coming faster than people realize. So, all right. Cool, guys. Well, great call. Thank you very much. Keep an eye on Bitcoin between now and April 1st, 4 days from now. It's going to break out of that triangle. I'll be curious. It's going to go up or it's going to go down, but it's coming to an inflection point. So think about that. Start studying the future. Dr. Peter Diamandis has great calls on YouTube around AI. He tracks this stuff like I do every single day. He's investors in most of these companies. And if you go to his YouTube channel, he's got tons of interviews on there about robotics and the changes that are coming. And that's a great way to get kind of really high quality intel on these disruptions that are headed our way. And you can turn it into an opportunity, or you can be a victim of it. I like to turn this shit into opportunities personally. I don't like to be on the victimhood side of things. And so hopefully you guys will choose that option as well. Yes, David, this call is recorded and it will be up hopefully here later today, tomorrow at the latest. But yeah, we'll have all the show notes thanks to Fathom, which is a tool that I taught our group last week as well, which will take this call, edit it for me, provide a full bullet summary of everything we talked about today, and do that for me in about 60 seconds, which is awesome. And so you guys will see that when I post the notes in the recording. Awesome. All right. You guys have a phenomenal week. We'll see you next Thursday, and keep an eye on Bitcoin. I'll send you an update if I end up doing anything with my portfolio between now and then, but always a pleasure to see y'all. Thank you.